Hello, my name is Gabrielle Moore, and this is my Capstone project presentation for MDS 495. My project is entitled How the COVID-19 Pandemic Has Changed How We Work. So my capstone project that I chose to focus on came about after several conversations with family and friends who were lamenting at having to return to the office after working from home for over a year. Almost everyone I talked to found that they were more productive, witnessed less drama, felt more in control of their time, plus their dogs really liked the companionship. Because of this, I decided to focus my capstone research on this. How can I synthesize what has been documented by national researchers with what local businesses and employees have learned during this time? When I reflect on this revolutionary time in our history, it is becoming increasingly difficult to remember what life was like before COVID. We've all experienced a collective deceleration, forcing us to see how and where we spend our time through a new lens. Things I used to take for granted, like hugging a friend or traveling, must now all be done with safety as a top priority. One of the biggest impacts from the pandemic has been how and where we work. Many industries were forced to send workers home to stay in business. What we did not anticipate was how this change would impact the future of our workforce. There are a few areas of our economy that will go untouched if a nationwide change is made toward remote employment. If employees get their way and convince their employers to allow remote work, a lot of things could change, like where we live, how we spend our money, and how satisfied we are with our careers. Employers could reduce overhead costs, increase the pool of employee candidates, and decrease travel expenses. I thought that by synthesizing national research and local data and then making my findings available to the public, it may help local employees and organizational leaders to make informed decisions about their workforces. It is my hope that this research project will be another tool my fellow community members can use to help them navigate the remote working discussions and decisions that they will be faced with. As for me, well, now that I am a conflict management and leadership academic, I hope to use these lessons and the skills I have learned as I continue my education and possibly re-enter the workforce. So, analyzing the problem. Before the pandemic, we were all pretty happy with our normal work routines, primarily because we didn't know any better. The global crisis that changed our lives forced organizations everywhere to find innovative solutions for their businesses that, one, kept their businesses operational, and two, kept their employees connected while keeping everyone safe. The overwhelming solution in many industries was to send the employees home. The speed with which companies had their employees up working remotely was astonishing. Then we waited. As the weeks went by, collectively we realized that these may not be short-term solutions. The weeks became months, and remote workers settled into routines and found that working from home really had its benefits. Now that we see the light at the end of the pandemic tunnel, both organizations and the people they employ are faced with how to handle the post-pandemic work culture. We can either return to a pre-COVID work world, or we can gather all that was learned about this remote connectivity and use it to establish new norms and more flexible workspaces, hopefully resulting in increased productivity and greater employee satisfaction. As the months of the pandemic continued, national research became easier to locate. Locally, I was able to find 4 great sources of information to compare that national data with. First, I was able to interview Becky, an HR manager at HealthWise, who shared a survey they did with their entire staff. Their staff overwhelmingly voted to continue remote or partially remote work schedule. Next, I was able to interview Jamie, Senior Director of Planning at HP, who shared their organization's plan for a post-COVID work life. Their organization quickly transitioned to nearly 100% remote and says that they will not return to work as it was. My third interview was with Haley, a local nonprofit employee, whose leadership is pushing heavily for a complete return to a normal in-office work schedule, despite the fact that employees do not want this. Sadly, this dissonance has led to several employees quitting and many more looking for other work. The last source of local input was a survey I posted to a local online group. Of the 122 responses that I received, it was clear that employees found value in working from home and being given some flexibility and autonomy and would like to retain that control going forward. My research has pointed to 3 distinct options: The first, which is the focus of my paper, is that companies need to be involving their employees in the decisions about their post-COVID work life. History suggests that there will be many organizations who don't want to change and don't care what employees think, which leads to the first possible alternative solution, which is do nothing. This is exactly what Blockbuster did in the early 2000s when their CEO tried to convince the board of directors to move toward a flexible online service like Redbox or Netflix. The board, fearful of losing out on the 20% of their revenue that came from late fees, decided to do what they had always done, and within 10 years, they were out of business. The other possible innovative solution is to release my research, including all the personal commentary that speak to what employees have learned and what they want, in the hopes that this would convince local leaders to offer more options and flexibility to employees. The life and death stakes of the pandemic forced us into a cocoon-like state for over a year, where we could be at home, safe from harm. This reckoning of sorts has forced many into an existential consideration of our lives and how we spend our time. Soon, we will be able to safely emerge from our home cocoons and resume a normal life. But we will be forever transformed by what we have endured. The COVID-19 virus has changed the world and has been a dark time for people all over the globe. However, there have been some bright spots along the way. I cannot speak for everyone, but I know that I have renewed gratitude for relationships. I realize that I am more resilient than I thought. I found new ways to do the things I took for granted, and I look forward to using all that I have learned, both at school and from the pandemic, and emerge in a post-COVID world a college graduate and ready to make life better for myself and all those around me. I would like to leave you with this quote from Maya Angelou. We delight in the beauty of the butterfly, but rarely admit the changes it has gone through to achieve that beauty. Thank you.